Welcome to today's deep dive. We are jumping right into a topic that, if you're a dog lover, you're going to find this fascinating.
Oh, absolutely. It's a huge topic, literally.
Literally huge, yeah. Our mission today is unpacking a whole stack of behavioral and veterinary notes about the reality of living with and training a giant breed, specifically the Great Dane.
Right. Because, we want to figure out why good intentions just aren't enough when your dog weighs over 100 pounds.
Exactly, and how to get ahead of that size curve. So, to start, I want you to just imagine this. You're standing in your own hallway, the doorbell rings,
Oh, boy.
and suddenly 150 pounds of pure adolescent muscle just launches past you. I mean, he's practically galloping on the hardwood.
Just a wall of fur and energy.
Right. His tail is whipping back and forth so hard it takes out a side table. Magazines go flying everywhere. He hits the front door. His front paws completely leave the floor as he jumps up against the wood. And this massive, booming bark just fills the entire house.
It is a massive amount of sensory input for you to process in that hallway, let alone whoever is standing on the other side of that door.
Okay, let's unpack this, because in that specific moment, that dog is not being aggressive. There's no malice there at all.
No, not at all.
He's just absolutely thrilled that someone is at the door and he desperately wants to say hello. But if you are the visitor outside, 150 pounds of pure, unadulterated excitement moving that fast, well, it doesn't read as friendly.
No, it reads as highly intimidating.
Exactly.
And that actually establishes the central theme of everything we're digging into today. With a giant breed, meaning no harm does not guarantee doing no harm.
Right, because the physics change.
Exactly. A behavior that is mildly annoying in, say, a 20-pound dog-like jumping up on your leg when you walk in, that is an actual physical hazard when it comes from a Great Dane.
Yeah, the 20-pound terrier ruins your clean pants, but the Great Dane gives you a concussion.
Precisely. So we need to figure out how to shape that huge personality to actually fit inside a normal human house.
Before their sheer size makes ordinary moments totally impossible to manage.
Right. And the very first thing we have to do to get ahead of that curve is dismantle a really persistent, kind of dangerous piece of cultural mythology.
You mean the gentle giant label?
Yes, the gentle giant myth.
Because it is literally everywhere. You see a Great Dane resting by a fireplace in a movie or lumbering around a park, and you just naturally assume they are born as these, like, Zen-like gentle giants.
Yeah, are many mature Great Danes affectionate, sensitive, and incredibly calm? Yes, absolutely. But that temperament is not a guarantee stamped onto their DNA at birth.
It's not a default setting.
No, it's a highly variable outcome. It depends on genetics, their early socialization, their environment, and, well, even their underlying pain levels, which we'll get into later.
It's so risky to lean on that label, though, because it lulls you into this false sense of security.
It really does.
You bring this puppy home, you assume they're destined to become a gentle giant, and you subconsciously decide that rigorous training isn't really necessary. You think, oh, they'll just grow into it.
What's fascinating here is that when you look at that perfectly calm, majestic 5-year-old dog resting by the fire, what you don't see is the history.
Right.
You might not realize that same dog could have been an absolute uncontrollable chaos machine as an adolescent. Calling them gentle giants is risky if it tricks owners into thinking training is optional.
Because a friendly giant can injure someone by accident.
Exactly. And on the flip side, an untrained, scared giant is simply too heavy for you to physically move out of danger.
But I have to push back on this timeline a bit, just based on what I've read. If these dogs grow so incredibly fast, I mean, they look like fully grown adult dogs by the time they're just a year old, shouldn't we expect their behavior to match that adult-sized body?
That assumption right there is the exact trap that almost all new giant breed owners fall into.
Oh, really?
Yes. The physical growth happens at work speed. They reach full height and a huge portion of their adult weight so early. But their brain development, their judgment, that operates on a totally normal canine timeline.
So you essentially have a puppy brain driving a tractor-trailer.
That is the perfect way to visualize it. I love that. Adolescence in a Great Dane is defined by intense clumsiness, mostly because they genuinely don't know where their limbs are.
Like teenagers.
Exactly like teenagers. They have selective hearing, massive spikes in frustration, and they suddenly develop new fears of things they used to totally ignore.
Wow.
And yet the owner looks at this giant body and thinks, well, they're big now. They should know better.
Yeah.
I guess we don't need the baby gates anymore.
Which is a huge mistake.
It is the worst possible time to relax the rules. The size arrived early, but the judgment is miles behind.
Okay, so if we know we are in this developmental trap and we can't expect them to naturally act like gentle giants, how do we safely shape the behavior of an animal that is literally stronger than us?
Right, that's the big question.
Because my instinct, honestly, if I'm faced with a dog that big acting out, would be to physically step in, maybe channel my inner drill sergeant, and establish dominance so they don't walk all over me.
And that is exactly what you should not do. It backfires terribly.
Why does it backfire?
Because it fundamentally misunderstands the breed. The sources are incredibly explicit on this. You must never use forceful methods. No alpha rolls.
Which means pinning them on their back.
Right, never do that. No leash jerks, no pinning, no hitting. First of all, on a purely physical level, you will eventually lose that wrestling match.
Because they weigh as much as an adult human.
And they have a lower center of gravity.
Yeah.
But more importantly, Great Danes are uniquely emotionally sensitive.
Really? Even being that big?
Very much so. Even a sharply raised voice can completely shut a Great Dane down during a training session. Their nervous system just overloads.
That makes sense.
When you combine that deep emotional sensitivity with immense physical power, trying to use force destroys their trust in you. It creates a defensive, anxious giant.
Which is the last thing you want.
Exactly. Reward-based training isn't just some nice modern philosophy. It is the safest, most practical option you have.
So using food, play, things like that.
Yes, using what they want as currency to buy the behaviors you need.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me when we talk about that currency and setting rules. There's a massive pitfall regarding how rules are enforced across a family.
Oh, the consistency issue.
Yes, the notes pointed out that occasional inconsistency is actually worse than a strict but uniform rule, or even having no rules at all.
Because the dog's brain is basically running a constant probability algorithm. They are always observing to see what works.
It reminds me of a slot machine. Like, if I have a strict rule that the dog is never allowed to beg at the dinner table, but someone else in the house slips the dog a piece of turkey, like, once a month.
Yeah?
We haven't just bent the rule.
No, you've completely changed the game.
We've turned the dinner table into a slot machine. And slot machines are addictive precisely because they only pay out sometimes. That rare occasional jackpot is powerful enough to keep a 150-pound dog begging forever.
Because the dog does not understand the concept of sometimes. They just understand, hey, it worked once, it will probably work again if I just try harder.
And when the animal weighs that much, you simply cannot afford sometimes.
Exactly. Everyone in the household has to be reading from the exact same script. No exceptions.
Let's apply that strict consistency to the real-world physics of a human environment. I want to talk about leashes. The physics of leash walking a giant breed.
This is a huge safety issue.
Right, because loose leash work has to start well before the dog gets strong enough to pull you over. If they realize that pulling gets them to a squirrel, you've just taught them that pulling works.
You've rewarded the exact behavior you're trying to stop.
But the sources brought up something specific. Why is sudden lateral movement considered more dangerous than steady pulling?
Oh, because it's completely unexpected. If a giant dog pulls steadily forward, you can plant your feet, bend your knees, and lean back to counteract the weight.
You can brace for it?
Exactly. But if they unexpectedly lunge sideways to chase a squirrel, they take your center of gravity completely offline. You lose your footing. That's how you get a dislocated shoulder or a blown knee.
Wow. So how do you train for that?
You have to reward frequent check-ins. You train the dog that making eye contact with you is more rewarding than staring at the squirrel.
Yeah.
You want their attention locked onto you, not the environment.
That makes total sense.
And it also leads to a non-negotiable safety rule.
Yeah.
Children should never, ever walk a dog they cannot physically control.
It's just a tragic accident waiting to happen.
Completely.
And these physics apply to doorways, too. Like our doorbell scenario earlier. Pushing the jumping dog away and yelling, "No, down!" That feels like a correction to us.
But to the dog, it's a game.
Right. To a dog that size, that physical touch and the loud voice just registers as an exciting wrestling match. You're accidentally reinforcing the jumping with your attention.
Which is why the alternative is teaching a totally incompatible behavior. You don't fight them at the door. You teach them 4 paws on the floor, or you use mat training.
Okay. How exactly does mat training work as a solution here?
You're essentially teaching the dog to go to a designated spot, like a rug in the corner, and wait. You start by heavily rewarding them just for stepping on the mat, then for sitting on it, then for staying there for 5 seconds, then 10.
So building duration over time.
Yes. Eventually, the mat becomes a magnet for highly rewarding, calm behavior. So when the doorbell rings, instead of their brain saying lunge at the door, their brain says sprint to the mat because that's where the good stuff happens.
It introduces a buffer, a pause. A mat behavior and a release cues solves escape risks, it solves collision risks, and it makes pizza delivery a lot less traumatic. But what about counter surfing? Because they hit counter height shockingly fast. Once they're tall enough to rest their chin on your kitchen island, one successful raid on a stick of butter teaches the habit instantly.
And this is where we have to accept the limitations of training. You cannot fairly expect behavioral training to compete with, say, a delicious, unattended roast chicken sitting at the dog's eye level.
It's just too tempting.
You're fighting against millions of years of scavenging instinct. When the reward is that easy, the instinct wins. Management is the only real fix here. Clear your counters, close the kitchen doors.
And if they steal something else, like a shoe or a TV remote, because my first instinct is to chase them and get it back.
Never chase a giant dog with a stolen item. It turns it into the most thrilling game of keep away they've ever played.
Oh, because of the prey drive.
Yes. Their brain gets a massive dopamine hit from the chase. You have to teach a calm trade instead. Offer them a piece of high-value cheese so they learn that giving up the item results in an even better reward.
All this physical management, though, clearing counters, trading shoes, blocking doors, it's exhausting for us. But holding back those instincts is mentally exhausting for the dog, too.
Very much so. Which brings us to their internal emotional state. Teaching them how to turn their brain off is just as important as physical management.
The art of doing nothing, right?
Exactly. Subtle training. Many big dogs are much better at hitting the gas pedal than finding the brake. When they get over-aroused, they get jumpy, vocal, mouthy.
Like an overtired toddler throwing a tantrum instead of taking a nap.
That's a great comparison.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, the instinct to just give them more exercise isn't always the fix. Often it just builds a fitter, more exhausted, crankier dog. They need real, independent rest. Settling on a mat isn't punishment, it's a life skill.
This raises an important question, though. How do we tell the difference between a dog that is just being stubborn and a dog that is terrified?
It's a vital distinction. If your dog is freezing in place, backing away, or refusing to move, that is fear, not defiance.
Not stubbornness.
Right. Their nervous system is overwhelmed. And you should never, ever drag a giant dog toward what scares it. You can't win physically, and it shatters their trust in you.
That dynamic is even more intense with resource guarding. I read the golden rule from the sources: never punish a growl. And I compared it to a smoke detector.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, if your smoke detector starts blaring because you burnt dinner, you don't fix the problem by ripping the batteries out. You aren't putting out the fire. You're just removing the warning alarm before the house burns down.
That analogy perfectly captures the mechanics of a growl. A growl is just the dog giving you critical information about their boundaries.
They're saying they're uncomfortable.
Exactly. If you punish the growl by yelling, they learn that giving a warning is dangerous. Next time, they skip the growl and escalate straight to a bite. Management and safe trading routines are the answer, not punishment.
Okay, so looking at the broader ecosystem of the home, when you have an animal this powerful, how does their presence impact the more vulnerable family members? Let's talk about the nanny dog myth.
Right. Despite that myth, size creates real responsibility.
You see photos of Great Danes snuggled with toddlers, and it looks so sweet.
It is sweet, but a gentle Great Dane can accidentally knock over a toddler just by turning around. They step on feet. For older adults, a dog leaning on them or a sudden tail strike is a massive fall risk. Active adult supervision is absolutely mandatory.
You shouldn't force close contact just for a cute photo.
Never. And this extends to other animals too. Dog parks require extreme caution. The mismatch in size can cause serious alarm.
What about cats inside the house? If the dog calmly watches the cat through a baby gate, does that prove they're safe?
No, calm observation doesn't prove anything. Prey drive is triggered by sudden movement. Secure physical separation is required unless you are actively supervising.
So what does this all mean for the dog's lifespan? Where does all this management lead?
It all comes together in veterinary care. It really is healthcare. Teaching them to tolerate paw handling, to stand on a scale, and muzzle training.
Wait, muzzle training, isn't that just for aggressive dogs?
Not at all. A muzzle is just a neutral tool. If trained early, it massively reduces fear and protects vet staff during stressful visits.
That makes total sense.
And we have to mention the pain connection. If your dog suddenly resists a nail trim, growls when lifted, or ignores a cue, It might not be a behavior regression.
It could be physical.
Yes, it might be joint pain. Or in senior dogs, vision and hearing loss. A sudden behavioral shift shouldn't be met with stricter training, but with a medical check.
Wow. Which brings us completely full circle back to the beginning of our deep dive.
The doorway.
The doorway. The doorbell rings, but this time the dog goes straight to his mat and waits calmly for a release. The personality is exactly the same, huge and expressive, but the cooperation underneath it has changed everything.
Because training a giant breed isn't just about obedience. It's an act of preventative health care.
Absolutely. And that leaves us with a final thought for you to mull over. Throughout this entire deep dive, we've learned that a Great Dane's success relies entirely on household consistency, clear environmental management, secure boundaries, and controlling our own emotional reactions. So it really makes you wonder, when you bring a giant breed into your home, who is actually being trained here? The dog or you?